Please be kind, as this is my first time writing this. A friend advised me to write and see how people react. I am 19 years old, and my older brother is 23. My father, 42, married my stepmother, 35, after splitting from my mother, 41, almost 4 years ago. My mother is French, and my father is an American. 5 months after leaving my mother, my father began seeing my stepmother, and a few months later, they married. My stepmother has 2 children, a 13-year-old boy named Henry and an 8-year-old girl, Hannah. My relationship with my stepmother is not ideal, although we do agree on several points. The incident occurred 5 weeks ago, as I was celebrating my 19th birthday. As the guests arrived and the party began, it was time to blow out the candles. Before I could accomplish that, my mother arrived in the country to surprise me. She brought with her a gold bracelet engraved with my name and horoscope sign. My stepsister noticed the bracelet and immediately wanted it, but my stepmother said no. She has a tendency to take items that do not belong to her, and her mother encourages this behavior. I told my father about it, and I even threatened to relocate to France and live with my mother if it didn't stop. After we finished blowing out the candles, my stepsister approached me and asked for the bracelet, but I declined. I was dumb and left it on the table alongside the other gifts. Later in the night, I heard my mother shouting, and I realized what had happened. My mother and stepmother were shouting, and my stepsister was standing behind Mom, holding the bracelet. A little later, my father arrived to attempt to calm them both down. As my mother and I pointed out that my stepsister took the bracelet, even after I told her no, my father instructed her to hand it over, but she threw a fit and tried to flee. I grabbed her hand and quickly removed the band. Within seconds, my stepmother pushed and slapped me for snatching her kid. I admit that when I grabbed her, I squeezed her quite roughly, and in the heat of the moment, I smacked my stepmother back. My father yelled at me for striking my stepmother, and everyone heard the uproar. My stepmother yelled out at the top of her lungs, claiming that I slapped her. My stepbrother began to argue, but quickly calmed down after my brother and a couple of cousins from my father's side spoke to him. I left the party with my mother and brother, staying at my mother's hotel for 2 days before she left. When I returned home, my stepmother and her children said nothing to me, only hinting at me, and my father scarcely spoke to me because I had not apologized. A week after the incident, I began receiving texts and phone calls from my stepmother's family, telling me what a terrible person I am for punching her. It became a little annoying, and I protested to my father, but he has not informed my stepmother anything to my knowledge. Then they began emailing me images of myself that were modified with the phrase "woman beater," prompting me to deactivate my social media accounts and create new ones. I know striking women is terrible, and I don't condone it, but she hit me first, and I became enraged. I'm considering apologizing to her and moving on from the situation, but what should I do? I'm looking forward to spending the holidays with my mom. I wanted to keep you all informed of any updates. So, am I an A*****? Here are a few related comments. OP responded to a removed remark by saying, "Yes, I did grab my stepsister, and it was bad of me, and the dysfunctional bit is somewhat accurate. I'll try to strike up a discussion, but given the current state of affairs, I doubt it will be successful. I intend to leave the nation to live with my mother, but I want to have a positive connection with my father and stepmother." User, it's very sad. Move to France. OP, I'm going for the Christmas holidays and will talk to my mother about permanently staying with her. Update. Hello everyone. I apologize for not responding to all of the comments placed here, but I did read some of them. Many individuals answered not the a-hole, while many others said yes, I am the a-hole. This may be my final update, but I apologize for the delay in responding. I had a lot of errands and packing to complete. I am leaving for France in the morning. As I type this post, I'm rechecking my bags to see if I forgot anything. Since my original post, I've been sleeping and spending the majority of my time at my brother's flat. I came home this morning because my father was going to drop me off at the airport. My father, stepmother, and step-siblings were all present. My stepmother spoke to me briefly, and my step-siblings said nothing. I spent the majority of the day in my room, with my father periodically checking in on me. At 8 p.m., I was summoned to supper. After supper, I waited for my step-siblings to go, and then I apologized to my stepmother for slapping her and grabbing my stepsister. She replied by nodding her head, which I assumed meant she accepted it, but I didn't care after that. I turned to my father and informed him I intended to live permanently with my mother. He was surprised and asked if it was what I wanted. He said he'd support me, so I said okay and walked to my room. Also, I noticed a couple comments that I wanted to respond to. First and foremost, I wanted to thank everyone for their suggestions and recommendations, which I followed. Thank you to those who suggested that I was the a-hole and that I should apologize. I completely get where you're coming from. I was terribly wrong when I grabbed my stepsister and slapped my stepmother. Second, to everyone who advised me to keep all of my personal and critical possessions safe from my stepmother, I did exactly that. I also had locks installed on my bedroom doors. Third, some questioned why I continued to live with my father rather than move away. I recently graduated from high school, which is why I live with my father, and I had a job for a short time. I also wanted to address those who claimed my father is an a-hole, which is false. In the situation, he could have defended me, but my father is a lovely person. He's a wonderful guy, and I was never abused or ignored, even when my stepmother and her children moved there. He could have handled the matter much better, but it's his wife. Once again, I'd want to thank everyone for their suggestions and advice. I do not condone men or women striking each other, but I would like to express my gratitude. I'd want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Also, sure, I received the jewelry back. So, are we going to ignore the fact that the stepmother in this case did not face any punishment for stealing, inciting theft, or failing to discipline her child? Yeah, he probably should not have hit the lady. I understand that it was the heat of the moment. He should have done it, but he apologized. And then this tiny prune uptight lady said, "Oh, I'm just going to take some jewelry and whatnot." What? Huh? Man, move to France. Screw this lady. She's the stereotypical awful stepmother who brings in terrible stepchildren. Man, I despise cliches. Next story. Story number 2. Hello. I will try to make this quick, but there is a lot of history. I, 28F, come from a large family where everyone goes to church and then supper together. Relatives are thick as thieves. Sisters are best friends, and so on. Everyone simply hangs around with each other. Until I married my spouse, 30M, I was the same person and very close to everyone. Now, a quick look back at my gloomy childhood. My mother was the head of my close family, and she married various men during my childhood, which will be crucial later. My father, who had primary custody, was an aggressive drug user who was forcibly removed as my guardian by the state when I was 12. At the same time, my mother, 40F, married her final husband, B, 55M, who really stepped up to fit into a corny stepfather rom-com with baseball in the park, makeup removal from breakups, shopping sprees, and basically dad stuff. I was repeatedly told that he was an excellent father and that we were extremely fortunate to have a parent who truly cared for us. It was apparently the foundation of his and my mother's relationship. He was a first responder and all-around excellent. I heard it until I grew up and went away, but it became out that he had been molesting me every morning since I was 14. Yes, I didn't tell anyone because I believed them. He was fantastic. Until in the morning. Fast forward to meeting my hubby. Essentially, he loved me even while I struggled to cope with my father's abuse. He didn't know about B. My family despised my now husband right from the beginning. Members of my family deliberately attempted to split us up. I still don't understand. And because of all the negativity, I've grown estranged from everyone except L, B, and my siblings. However, I continued to see them at festivities such as Christmas and Easter. Then one night a few months back, I felt compelled to tell my spouse about B, my stepfather. It had been bugging me since I had my daughter, and it had finally reached a point where I needed to tell him. He reacted like a man who loves me as much as he does. He severed all connections with himself, his family, his children, and B. He assured me that the next step was up to me and that he would help me with whatever I needed. So I decided to tell my mother the big truth. It's been weeks, and I still don't know if I did the right thing or just damaged people for no reason. Well, my mama bear mother is still married to him and intends to stay that way. She thinks he's changed and wonders why I didn't tell her when it happened, etc. That was not what I expected, and I was deeply wounded that I was so plainly ignored for someone who had wronged me and caused me so much pain. So when I saw her again, I completely lost it. I yelled at her for a number of things I believed she had failed to do, including protecting me from my abusive father. She knew about the issue for almost 6 years before charges were filed against him, and failing to value me today while protecting the foolish mama bear image. While I felt better and left, I haven't spoken to anyone other than my one sibling since. The problem is that I lost it in the midst of a family game night with practically all of my extended family there. So now that the secret is out, I don't feel the need to speak with any of them again, because everyone wanted to keep it within the family and for me to preserve a relationship with my mother. My husband's family, however, has treated me far better than any of them. Perhaps they deserve an explanation. Maybe I shouldn't have disclosed my secret because my mother thinks she's changed. I'm not sure, but writing it out helps me feel more justified. So, am I an a-hole? Edit. I appreciate your warm words. I am feeling a lot of love. The part that makes me feel like an A***hole, however, is how long I wait to speak. They almost divorced several times and I said nothing. It must have come as a surprise to everyone, and none of my siblings are discussing it anymore. The entire family fell apart. I feel like bringing it up now is trivial, but I think you might disagree. Thank you again. Update. I really appreciate everyone's counsel, kindness, and validation. I have an update for you all since I've been in contact with my family, and there have been a few developments. I am not sure whether this is the proper way to provide an update, but here goes. A few folks asked clarity on B, my stepfather's past actions. As far as I know, I was the first person he targeted, and I doubt he would commit another offense without the same level of access to me. But better safe than sorry, and he will avoid touch till he dies. My husband contacted him to convey a strong warning to keep away, but nothing has happened since. In terms of pressing charges, this man B, this monster in a hero's mantle, is a well-known member of the community and the local police force. I'm afraid I won't get very far and will end up bringing more drama that I'd rather avoid. Legal disputes would mean that he would continue to dominate my life for years. Maybe it's selfish not to charge him, but it's more effort than I have energy for. However, if things start to go wrong, I have a backup plan. Many people speculated that others would have come forward, and boy did they. To protect the persons concerned, I'll simply narrow it down to 3 family members who have exposed abusers, including myself and a younger sibling. I've spoken with various folks older than me in my family who have told me to forgive my mother. She accomplished nothing, and it is not my concern who she is married to. So I suppose I'm going to avoid touch with most of them. My hubby has been my rock. He's told me many of the same things you've stated, but it's difficult to look back on what happened and not see it as a terrible scenario. It was my usual, I suppose, and it's difficult to retrain my brain to feel revulsion while not downplaying what happened in my own head. But I'd like to thank you all for helping me realize that I'm worthy of fury over this. Much love to everyone for taking the time to help a stranger. Well, this appears to be a reasonably satisfactory conclusion. Things appear to be improving, and hopefully, she will seek help at some point. She remarked near the end that her brain was conditioned to accept what was occurring to her as usual. When you're so young and gullible, and you're constantly told that the guy who's doing this to you is a fantastic guy, a terrific stepfather, and a great male role model, how could you think otherwise? Why make a comment about the blue sky? But it's definitely erroneous, and I'm delighted she's reached the point where she can recognize that it's wrong. She's moved on from the folks who are mistreating her and now has a strong support system in her husband and a few others. Also, screw the mother. Mama, bear my ass. Screw you, lady. Next, story no. 3. My 20M friend, 22M, wants me to stand aside so he can try to date my non-girlfriend. 18F. Long version. A little more than 3 years ago, I had recently ended a relationship with a girl who was extremely abusive. I broke up with her shortly before graduating high school and wanted to spend some time for myself. Of course, a few weeks after the breakup, I met the most beautiful girl I've ever met, and we really clicked. I'll refer to her as Lisa. She had also recently left an abusive relationship, so neither of us were looking for something serious. My driver's license was suspended at the time due to excessive speeding during a difficult period in my life. I learnt my lesson, and my friend Ken offered to drive me to see her for several months. We'd generally just hang out together because we got along so well. Lisa and I would primarily snuggle up if we were all watching a movie together. We would sometimes sneak away for a few minutes to make out, but not for too long because we didn't want to be disrespectful to Ken. Lisa and Ken formed their own friendship during this time, but it was clearly platonic on both sides, similar to an elder brother-younger sister relationship. Ken had a girlfriend of 4 years at the time, but their relationship was tenuous. After 6 months, I got my license back and went to meet Lisa without Ken. At that point, Lisa and I began having sex. We both liked each other, but I panicked and ended up ghosting her for a few weeks. Lisa and Ken continued their conversation, and he stated that he would not quit being friends with her because I was acting foolishly. Okay, fair enough. When I realized I was being silly, Lisa agreed to see me again. We picked off just where we left off. Around this time, Ken and his girlfriend split up, so I moved in with him. I would visit Lisa a few times a week, and she would come to our house on weekends, where we would all hang out. This went on for several months until she stopped contacting me for around 2 weeks. She informed Ken that she was afraid I would bail again, and she didn't want to go through the pain again. We worked it out, although this cycle has subsequently repeated once or twice, though not in more than a year. Ken's behavior towards Lisa has changed over the last year, particularly after she turned 18. He would flirt with her in front of me. She is cordial with him, but she does not flirt back and moves away when he touches her. I told him I didn't like it, but he said it didn't matter if he flirted with her. She still loved me. She claims she has no feelings for Ken, and everything points to this. Ken has also begun to drink more frequently, and the other night, when Lisa was not around, he began complaining about life not being fair. So I accepted the bait and inquired what was wrong. He began talking about how Lisa is too good for me and that I don't deserve her. I agreed, but it still irritated me. He then informed me that he had been in love with her for a long time, and that if I cared about either of them, I would move aside so he could pursue her. I did not want to dispute with him while he was intoxicated, so I went to bed. I challenged him in the morning and he doubled down. He said, I can't commit. I can't give her what she wants and needs. She's not my girlfriend and she's fair game for dating. Is it bad for me to believe this is messed up? Lisa and I have an odd relationship. I'll admit that we don't call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, but we don't sleep with anybody else. We say we love each other. She generally stays at my house, and we have wonderful interactions with each other's families. I think we're fairly happy together. I know she doesn't want to be with him, so I'm not concerned. But after Ken said those words, I can't help but wonder if I'm being unjust to Lisa by keeping her with me. I told Lisa everything Ken said about her and our relationship right away. She is uninterested in him and has been uncomfortable with his approaches. Also, because it has been questioned several times, Lisa and I have always been on the same page when it comes to labeling our relationship, and I am aware that she is her own person and may be with whomever she wants at any moment. Ken is the only one who sees this as a competition. Here are a few related remarks. This is OP's take on his relationship with Lisa. When we first started sleeping together, we talked about it and decided we didn't want to sleep with or date other people, but we also didn't want to label our relationship. We talk about it occasionally and have always been on the same page, but we've taken it a lot more seriously in the last year. However, the more I type it out, the less official it appears to be. Ken is definitely free to try his luck, but she has declared she is not interested. If anything, he'll ruin his friendship with her. OP on telling Ken Lisa isn't interested. I spoke with him again this morning and told him what she told me, with her permission, which was essentially that his advances have been making her uncomfortable, and that if he wants to maintain any friendship with us, he needs to get things back to normal. He stated he won't believe it until he sees her say it herself, without me present. I'm conflicted about it since I don't want to come across as domineering, but I'm also concerned about his reaction if she rejects him. Update. I'd want to thank everyone who responded to my post and provide an update for those interested in the outcome. I'd been staying with Lisa for about a week since the first argument with Ken, and after hearing from everyone here, I knew I wanted to ask her if she wanted to make things more official. She ended up making things much easier for me. As luck would have it, Lisa wondered if it would be easier if I just told Ken she was my girlfriend. I seized the chance and asked if I could tell everyone she was my girlfriend, and she replied, sure. She and I are going to look at few apartments this week because I clearly need a new living situation, and we want to move in together. Ken and I had a couple brief chats after he informed me that he wanted to be with Lisa. I told her everything Ken had said to me, and she was not interested in him, as I had expected. I also informed him that she is now officially my girlfriend, which should alleviate his fears about me not committing to her. He refused to believe anything until she confirmed it in person, without me there. She first agreed to meet with him on Sunday, with the intention of meeting at her house because she lives with her mother and stepfather, but he declined, stating he preferred to meet at the flat without me. She informed him that she was not comfortable with that. If he wanted to meet without me or her parents, they needed to be somewhere public. He became enraged that his intimidating behavior made her feel intimidated and went insane, calling her every term in the book. She told him she wasn't going to meet him again and blocked his number. He's tried to contact me several times, ranging from sad to confrontational, and I'm just a text or two away from barring him as well. Hopefully, he'll move on and it won't happen again. Thank you to all that helped me negotiate this circumstance. To clarify, we both wish him well, but none of us wishes to maintain a friendship with him under any circumstances. Since submitting this update, I've also blocked him. I agree with the posters that there is no purpose in maintaining open lines of contact any longer. I've also asked other friends to assist me move the remainder of my belongings out, but I was able to collect all I needed when I first left. He can build a shrine out of my old clothing if he likes. Here are some additional pertinent comments. User 1 said, "Dude, this guy is a creep, and it sounds like he planned to do something awful to Lisa while they were alone. To be honest, simply cut him out of your life." OP stated, "I agree. I could understand him not wanting me in the room or having his heart shattered in the middle of a Starbucks. But him rejecting her parents' house when they'd always been close with him was a major red signal for us." User 1 then commented, I believe you should drop this friend at this point. He clearly isn't as good a guy as you imagine. Who is your girlfriend? Not the guy who appears to want to sexually assault her. OP responded, I don't think I'm going back to the flat to grab the remainder of my belongings. I hope he can get his life together, but I can't help him at this time. If he tries to contact her again, she plans to seek a restraining order. I've also informed our common acquaintances of the situation, and he has no idea where our new flat will be under any circumstances. The OP's final comment, my stuff is out, thanks to 2 of my friends who are also friends with Ken. Friend A tried ahead of time to persuade Ken to leave so we could get everything out without him, but it didn't work. Ken stated he wanted to make sure I didn't interfere with his stuff, which is strange considering he tried to meddle with my relationship. Friend A then offered to act as a buffer so that friend B and I could get my belongings out. When we arrived to the flat, Ken was clearly drunk, but calm and seemingly remorseful. I had already resolved not to engage with him since I no longer saw the point. He evidently disliked being ignored and gradually began to rant, shouting increasingly derogatory things. He then began making comments about Lisa, but I was able to ignore him and let it go until he warned me I might need to F*** her up and keep her in line. He is aware that her previous ex was abusive. I am grateful that my buddies were there to help me get out of there immediately because I have never felt so upset in my life.